I've worked in a morgue for a few years now, and you'd think I'd seen it all, but nothing prepared me for that night. It was a stormy evening, the kind where the rain sounds like needles on the windows, and the thunder is so loud you can feel it in your bones. It was just past midnight, and I was alone, doing the usual rounds, checking the tags and logs. That's when the power flickered. Once, twice, then darkness. The emergency lights kicked in, casting long, ominous shadows across the cold, sterile room. The hum of the refrigeration units ceased, and a silence fell. The kind of silence that's too heavy, too complete. I reached for my flashlight, and that's when I heard it. A soft thump. Not loud, but in the silence, it was as clear as a bell. I froze, listening. Another thump, then a scrape, like nails on metal. It was coming from the storage drawers. I told myself it was nothing, just my imagination running wild. But then, a drawer creaked open, just an inch. I could see the toe tag, the name Harrison barely visible in the dim light. My heart was racing now, but I had to check. It was my job, after all. I edged closer, the air somehow colder as I approached. I reached out, pulled the drawer open, and nothing. No risen dead, just Harrison, as still as ever. I let out the breath I didn't know I was holding and laughed at myself. Just a faulty drawer, that's all. But as I turned to leave, I saw it. The reflection in the stainless steel door. A figure standing right behind me. I spun around, my flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. But there was nothing there. Just rows of drawers and the faint lingering scent of formaldehyde. I didn't sleep well for weeks after that. Every shadow seemed to move. Every noise made me jump. They say working in a morgue desensitizes you. But that night made me believe that some things just can't be explained. I've never been one to believe in the supernatural, but I can't shake the feeling that something unnatural happened that night. Maybe it was just the storm, or the late hour, or my own tired mind playing tricks on me. But sometimes when the lights flicker, I can't help but wonder what lurks in the shadows of the morgue. I've got a story that I've been itching to share, and I think this is the right place for it. I work at a morgue downtown. Yeah, I know. Not your typical 9-to-5 job. It's usually just me, the silent company of those who've passed, and the occasional late-night radio show to keep things from getting too eerie. But last Thursday, something happened that I can't quite shake off. It was around 11 p.m., and the building was quiet. Too quiet. I was finishing up some paperwork when I heard it. A faint whisper. At first, I thought it was just the radio host's soft voice, but then I realized I turned it off earlier. The whisper turned into a murmur, like someone reciting a prayer or an incantation. I stood up, my heart pounding like a drum in my chest, and followed the sound. It led me to one of the storage drawers. I know, every horror movie screams don't open it. But I had to. I'm the only one here. And if there's something wrong, it's on me to check it out. I pulled the drawer open, bracing myself for the worst. But it was empty. As I stood there trying to make sense of it all, the temperature dropped. The air grew so cold I could see my breath. Then, the whisper started again, louder this time, swirling around me like a gust of wind. I slammed the drawer shut and bolted out of there. I don't believe in ghosts, but I can't deny what I heard and felt. It's been a few days, and nothing strange has happened since. But I can't shake the feeling that something was reaching out that night. Something that didn't want to be in the dark, cold drawer alone. So, there you have it. Maybe it was just my imagination, the product of too many late nights and too much caffeine. Or maybe, just maybe, the morgue isn't as lifeless as we think. I work at a morgue downtown, night shifts. I know, creepy setting already, right? But what happened last Tuesday? Man, I still get chills. So it was a typical Tuesday night, or so I thought. The dead don't bother me. It's the living you've got to worry about, right? The place was dead silent, pun intended. I was doing my usual rounds, checking the storage chambers, making sure everything was in order. That's when I heard it. A faint whisper. At first I thought it was just my mind playing tricks on me. The usual stuff when you're working alone in a place surrounded by the deceased. But then it got clearer, like someone was trying to tell me something. I stopped dead in my tracks. No sound but the hum of the refrigeration units. I called out, "Hello?" No response. I shook my head thinking I needed more coffee or something. But as I turned to walk away, there it was again, that whisper. But it was different this time, like a plea. I mustered up the courage and approached the source, chamber number 12. I pulled out the tray, and there she was, a Jane Doe they brought in earlier that evening. The whispering stopped. I just stood there staring, half expecting her to sit up and greet me. She didn't, of course, but the room, it suddenly felt colder. I pushed the tray back in, deciding that I definitely needed that coffee now. As I turned to leave, I swear I heard a soft "thank you" from behind me. I didn't dare to look back. I just walked out, the sound of my footsteps echoing in the empty corridor. I haven't heard anything since that night, but sometimes when I pass by Chamber 12, I can't help but wonder, was she trying to communicate? Or was it just the exhaustion playing tricks on me? I guess I'll never know. I've been working in a morgue for the past 2 years, and I've seen my fair share of unsettling things. But nothing compares to the experience I had one stormy night last November. I'm sharing this because I can't shake the feeling that what happened was more than just my imagination. It was around 1 a.m., and the power had been flickering due to the thunderstorm raging outside. The backup generator kicked in, casting an eerie dim light throughout the halls. I was alone, which wasn't unusual, but that night the solitude felt suffocating. I was in the middle of updating our records when I heard it, a faint whisper. At first I thought it was just the wind, but then it happened again, clearer this time, calling my name. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. The logical part of my brain told me it was impossible, but the fear was real. I mustered the courage to leave the office and check the corridors. That's when the temperature dropped. It was a cold that seeped into your bones, unnatural for an indoor setting. I wrapped my arms around myself, pushing forward. As I passed by the storage drawers, one of them was slightly open. I knew for a fact they were all securely closed when my shift started. I approached it hesitantly, pushing it closed, when a cold hand gripped my wrist. I screamed, pulling away, but there was nothing there. No hand, no person. Just the chilling touch that lingered on my skin. I ran back to the office, locked the door, and waited for morning. When my colleague arrived, I didn't mention a word of it, but I noticed something off. The drawer that had been opened. It contained the body of a man who had whispered his last words to a nurse. "I will not be forgotten." I don't work the night shift anymore. I can't. Every shadow makes me jump. Every whisper makes me turn. People say it's all in my head, but I know what I felt, and I'll never forget it.